Morning, this is Lakhi Singh. I'm with Sapna Chadha. We're live now. In fact, we're quite lucky to be live in these extraordinary times. Is that right, Sapna?
Very, very true. Honestly, I can't agree more than,
Hold on one second.
what you're saying. Definitely, we're very lucky living in these
Put your volume up now.
yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I can hear you.
Okay, I've got quite bad volume up here. Right, do a quick test. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yes, it's perfect.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yeah, I can. I can.
I can't hear you actually. It's kind of weird. I did do a test beforehand. Let me just try a few things on my phone. 1 second.
Okay.
Hi there, we seem to have a voice issue now. It's actually better. I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me this time?
I can hear you perfectly, yes. For some reason, I couldn't hear you.
Excellent. And thank you
Okay.
so much for inviting me again in the show. I'm really excited. Really excited.
Well, I've seen you go from strength to strength with your Facebook group. How many members you got in your group now?
Well, you mean in my Facebook group, how many members I've got? Yeah.
Yeah,
Or in my mentorship.
just in the Facebook group. Right?
Facebook group, I've got 1800.
Wow, and you only started about 2 months back, I think.
Yeah,
Is it
only
in
started,
January
yeah, last year. Yeah,
last
yeah,
year? Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Wow, and how many people in the mentorship?
I've got, I mean, so far I have mentored about 40 people. So at the moment, yeah, I've got, I think 30 with me, 35, between 30 and 35. I'm helping
Oh,
them on
fantastic.
ongoing basis. Yeah.
Excellent. So I think today's topic, well, we're going to move on to in a second first. So um, today's Friday, and it's weekend coming up, so I'm sure everybody's very excited about relaxing and enjoying themselves. And today's also quite an important day because today's the technically the end of lockdown. Is that right? Today, 19th?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. 19th of July, that's when everything opens and nobody really knows what to expect. Yeah.
Exactly. So one thing I did notice because I came in by tube today
Yeah.
is that at least half the people weren't wearing masks anymore.
Wow, really? Oh, no. I think they
Well, at
still
least
have
the
to be
bit that I was
cautious.
sitting in, I think
Yeah.
there's about 7 people sitting next to me, none of them had masks on.
Yeah. Do you still keep your masks on when you travel?
I do, I think, just to be on the safe side.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
on the odd occasion, I forget, so then I have to improvise by doing like a hanky or something like that. And
By putting this
with that,
handkerchief, yeah. By
yeah,
covering, yeah. That's
both of
true.
it.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
that always that easy. You're rushing
Yes.
into work in the morning.
Yes.
Um, so Sapna was on our show, I think, quite a few months back now, and we discussed how she's built up her portfolio. Is it in Northeast England, wasn't it? In Newcastle?
That's
Or?
right. In Northeast England, yeah. Yeah. I
That's
started,
right.
yeah, my journey with
Um,
this rent to rent back in 2017. Yeah.
that's right. And she's got background in civil service, I believe. Is that right?
Sorry, say that again.
You've got background in the civil service.
I have got background in civil service and I have worked for, yeah, local authority here as a deputy superintendent registrar. So I used to conduct ceremonies actually. So yeah,
Okay. So what's
plenty of
happened
yeah.
is my guess is that Sapna, whose dream was it to get into the property business,
Yeah.
always wanted to see people happy. And
Yeah.
being a registrar, he saw so much delight in people lives every day.
Yes.
Now she's decided to delight people in her own way by setting
Oh,
up her own business to ensure that any vows they're taking up when they're buying a property or
wow.
orchestrating a
That's
purchase,
oh wow.
that's
I'm
actually
really honored.
done in a very ceremonious way, and that it's all official and done properly. Is that right?
Yeah, wow. I love it. I love the way you said it. Yeah, I am a people's person. I love working with people. It's so fascinating, Really love it. Yeah. Okay. And I think more than anything, I like solving problems as well. So yeah, I think so. I've lost you again. You have lost your voice again. This echo.
Is our volumes or something? I don't know what it is. One second, I'll check.
Let me see.
Is that any better?
That's better. That's better. Yeah.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll hold. It might be easier. I'll put it on somewhere, maybe meeting out a bit. Is that better now?
A bit better. The echo is still there in the background, but yeah.
Okay, fine. So what we'll do is I'll try and ask a few more questions about. So tell us a little bit about your. Just remind us of your background, how you got started into rent to rent, and obviously the main topic of today is you're taking on service accommodation deals. What's best practice, how to go about it, so you don't end
Hmm.
up creating any problems. So we'll come on to that. Tell us a little bit about your background because we've got at least an hour. And,
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
we don't want to cover off the topic in 5 minutes. We've got so much
That's right. I'm
knowledge and
still having
information to about
difficulty.
yourself.
I still can't hear you properly. Right.
Did you
Yeah.
get the question? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So you want to know right from the start where it all started back in this country? Is that how? Right. Okay. Yeah. So I came here back in 1994, actually. So I've been here for 26 years, 27 years now. I came and I studied here uh, in this country, and this is, I kind of did my higher education, and then I met my partner who became my husband. So yeah, and yeah, so this is how just I started, and just because I had qualifications and all that, and I just wanted to challenge myself here, see that on a foreign land at the moment. I mean, it was like that. Now it's not. But at that time, I just wanted to challenge myself that I could, do something and make use of my education or whatever skills I had. So I started, I just any job would make me happy. So I started with a job in a city council because when I came here, I became like a qualified translator interpreter. So I used to actually, to start with, I used to actually translate all the plans for local authority, 5 yearly plan and all. I used to translate documents for education departments and all that, and I used to prepare them on computer as well. And so I
What did you
worked for
translate them
eight and a
into?
half years for
What do you translate them into?
into Hindi and Punjabi.
All
Yeah.
right.
I pick languages very quick. So that was something. Punjabi, I've never, I mean, even though my parents spoke Punjabi, but I didn't know how to read or write. So, but I picked up when I was here because there was a need for it, in my department. So I picked that language as well.
Well,
So, yeah, so I became,
that's something we have in common. Because, funny enough, I
yeah.
also speak Punjabi.
Okay.
You know
Lovely.
that?
Yeah, amazing. That's
A
amazing.
bit
Yeah.
obvious, but
Yeah.
I can also read and write as well.
Oh, amazing. That's brilliant. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, no. So this is how, I mean, mainly I started for Hindi language because in those days, in back in 90s, there was a rule here that every document had to be translated in six other languages as well, foreign languages at the same time for equality and diversity. So people have equal access to all the information that whatever was available, was made available for public. So that's when I, because when I did that course, actually my lecturer was head of translations in the local authority. So he knew that there was a job going, and he offered me that opportunity. And I worked 8.5 years as a, translator and interpreter for the local authority full time, translating all the plans and, all the education related documents, or any department had any documents, I used to translate them and prepare documents, so yeah, so I quite enjoyed it. But I think then there came a time when I felt that I needed a change, so then I moved and I changed my job. I worked for Inland Revenue for 2.5 years after that. And then I came back in the council again, where I worked as a trained council tax officer. So I got training as a, so I became like a council tax officer. So I've got a good background knowledge of that as well. Not many people know about these things. I've never actually spoken about these things. And then there came an opportunity, because I mean, I think something inside us, I think, because I'm not saying that we are special, but I think there's something in when you come from India, or those type of those countries, we have something in our blood that we're hardworking people, I think. I mean, and I think, I won awards in my job when I was working for local authority. And when my manager moved to registrar's department, she said there is opportunity available if you want to change in career. So I moved to her department, and then I, got trained as a registrar. So that was another challenging phase in my life, because I mean, by nature, I mean, I don't know whether you'll believe or not, I'm a very introvert, very shy person actually. So something I'm doing is very daring. So when she said to me that you want to become a registrar, conducting ceremony in front of hundreds of people there, I was completely freaked out, and I thought, no, I need to challenge myself. So yeah, and yeah, so it was really lovely. So I worked as a registrar for 8.5 years as well. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, because yeah, I just learned how to tackle my own nervousness, my own, shyness or anxiety, which we try to hide in front of public. So yeah, so I challenged myself, and that
The other thing
became
we've
this.
got in common, we're both quite shy. I'm quite shy as well, actually.
All right, okay, that's interesting. Yeah,
Well, I
people
used to be
don't
very
realize.
shy,
Really, yeah.
18 something.
Okay.
Think I think, like you said, you have to start challenging yourself, otherwise you end up
Yeah,
stuck.
that's it. I think you and me, we both must be like very good in putting that act on, where we know how to not that hinder our dreams or whatever we want to do. So which is brilliant, I think, in a way, so hats off to you as well. I love your bhangra moves and everything. I think, God, how much confidence you have. You're just so brilliant. Yeah. So yeah, I've just challenged myself. I think one thing after the other. I mean, when I first came, I mean, whether you believe it or not, I mean, I had very good, I could speak English and everything, but when I came, I was embarrassed to actually speak in English, because I thought, in case, I make mistake, and what if somebody laughs and all that. And it's just thinking that this is like a first language, in, for people in this country. So I think you come over so many challenges in life, and it becomes then second nature. You become used to it. You think, so what, even if I do mistakes, so what, it's life. Nobody's perfect. So
Sapna,
yeah.
tell us how long you were a registrar for, and how
I
you
was
got
registrar.
to.
I was registrar for I think, was it 8 years? 8 years, about 8 years. Yeah, eight. Yeah,
And
yeah.
that, and how did you get the
I can't hear you again. Yeah, house property. When did I get into property? I love it. I got into property. I had this bug back in 2017. That's when I got into property. I mean, I was thinking about it since 2016, but 2017 was the time when I thought, oh, I need to train myself. I need to do something, because nobody really in my family was ever into properties, nobody from my husband's side of family, nobody even in India, my parents, they're all professionals. So this was something really daring. So even my husband said, I'm right behind you, but don't expect any help from me, if anything goes wrong, don't come crying to me. So I said, no, I need to really know what I'm doing before I actually take action, and I wanted to do something for my son as well. So, he was a little bit lost at that time, career wise. So he was just a teenager. But yeah, so he motivated me as well. And yeah, it's
What
one thing after the
did
other.
you do a training course, or did you look up on the internet, or read a book?
I did a
Um,
training. Yeah, I did a training course. Back in 2017, and it was through a big like these coaching academies, you do these type of courses. But the course that I did was, I mean, I did look up internet as well, but I thought I needed someone like one to one. Although at that time there wasn't really much choice, when I joined, I mean, I thought I will get that one to one, but there wasn't that much choice at that time. So I paid for 12 months training, where they kind of train you in 7 different strategies within property. So I learned everything, but I still wasn't perfect, in one. So I was jack of all trades, but master of none. That's all I would say. But then, because I had spent that sort of money, I spent about £15,000 at that time on my training.
how much?
£15,000.
Wow, which company did you spend that with?
I don't know you would like me to say that. I'll tell you backstage, but yeah. I
All
mean,
right, okay. But the thing is, it's fine. We're not because we don't do training. We're not in public.
yeah, no, we don't see me being naive, and yeah, and I don't want to name a company, in case,
Certainly,
but
so
yeah,
did it help you, or was it?
it helped me in a way that I got very basic information. I got basic information, but you realize that the information that is out there, or they give, it's very bookish. And you then realize that how naive you are. I should have asked for someone who has actually walked the walk, you know and that's where I it just showed my naivety. I thought, because you see so many testimonials, but when it comes to actually doing and taking action, and you need someone beside you, and that's where I lacked that. And I made a lot of mistakes, but because at that time when I enrolled myself, I enrolled my son as well. And I thought, my son is watching me, so I need to prove to him that I'm not going to give up easily. So by me spending that sort of money, I thought I have to show him, because he's following my footstep. So that's what really drove me.
So I think what I'm getting from Sapna, just for the viewers, is that one of the reasons for her success is more her conscientious. I think being a very conscientious person,
Mm,
she's tried not necessarily for her own requirement to be rich or wealthy. It's more about trying to help her son, also push herself to be more proactive, and also to be pushing herself out of her comfort zone. Because I think once you start moving forward small steps, then the slowly the bigger steps. So I think
exactly.
it's quite an extraordinary story from civil service to, you could sort of say, private sector or government. And
It was
being oblivious
government.
is completely different from working in the public sector, even because the public sector is very much focused on social work,
Yeah, yeah,
social level, and it's not about making money.
yes.
So how did you get your mindset changed to become more about the bottom line, the ROI, the return on investment? How did that psychology work?
I don't know. I didn't even know that I already had it inbuilt in me. Something inside me kicked in. Once, I think, when you spend that sort of money and you feel that, oh God, somehow one way or the other, you just need to make it work. And I started listening a lot of things, after once I've been on, went on that course and all that. And I think all that then kicked in that, yeah, definitely all these, how it all works. So yeah, all of a sudden now I've got like a brain of that entrepreneur all of a sudden, which I never even knew that I ever had. I still, although, like to think that I do wear my heart on my sleeve, because I give a lot of information out to people for free, because I feel where I was, I know people are still there and they're stuck and they're paying for these expensive courses and all, and still not getting that one-to-one support that they should really be getting. Because at that time I kind of felt that, is it me that who has got learning difficulty that I don't understand, and I'm kind of expecting someone to handhold me. So I was kind of very, I don't know, I just doubted myself, me being shy and not being very vocal about what I really needed from my mentor. I think that's what, and now I know, after I've come out, I realized that it wasn't just me. There are many people like me actually. And like you said, it was never the case where I wanted to be super rich or anything like that. I wanted to do it for my child. And I think it's just my mother instinct that has given me so much courage to do things, because my child is watching me and I can't let him down. So yeah.
Okay, well, what I'll do is I'll give you a quick summary Sapna, of what we do as a company, and then what we'll do is I'll move into service accommodation and ask you a few more questions
Yeah, yeah.
about Lucky Singh and what we think of what we do. You know about it?
Yes, I do. I do kind of know that, if anybody has difficulty paying their mortgages, and, the property is about to repossess, this is where you come in and you support and you kind of help that person to get out of that tricky situation, don't you? And yeah,
That's right.
is that right?
You've got good memory, so saves me having to tell everybody. But
But I
in
would
essence,
love to, yeah. No, please explain a bit more about your strategy
so
as well. It's
basically,
so.
for the audience out there, I think you've got a very good idea. But we're basically like a one-stop shop. So we do something like 50 different things in property, but not many people know that about us.
Mm,
So we've been known to get involved in many aspects of property, but also do other things which are a bit extraordinary. We do equity rate
right.
with equity raises for companies as well. Good to say that. We've
Uh-huh.
helped to deal with complex situations for their business in terms of their business plan, scale up their company.
Mm,
We can all, so if I just do 4 or 5 quick things, we can help in the buying or selling of any asset, be it commercial, office, obviously 90% of our business is residential. So we deal with a lot of complex sales as well. We negotiate with solicitors, etc. So, but stopping repossession of assets, because commercial is something different. It's called LPA receivers. When
mm-hmm,
they get
mm-hmm.
involved, we help people save their buy-to-let portfolio. We're the
Right.
leading in actually stopping receivers of buy-to-let portfolios in the country. Not many
Mm-hmm.
people know that. I think we're very good at what we do, but we don't always market it or advertise it for the sake of doing it. So
So it's
I
all
think,
word of mouth.
yeah, I think a lot of it. But we do a lot of online podcasts. So if you were to type in negative equity, LPA receivers,
Mm,
possession into Google, internationally, the top 15 sites that come up um, out of all the searches that, 15, that 12 of them are our company.
wow, that's
So
amazing.
let's give
That's really, yeah, that's something
you
really amazing.
immediate banking, the fixer, lucky things, sort of profile comes up. So a bit like you, we're very much focused on sort of helping people,
Mm,
and we try to sort of help them out with these very difficult predicaments
mm,
where they've got maybe a litigation issue, or they've got a finance issue, they need a bridge, they need to come out of the bridge, or they need a sale and they need a strong buyer so they don't repossess their property. So everything that we do is centric around solving the problems. But we don't really buy any asset. We basically
so, uh-huh. So do you arrange actually fund for them to, to help them out, or is it that you buy those properties instead of them, or you actually help them with the funds?
We don't buy anything. We basically just instruct people out.
Right.
That's the problem, and we just charge them a fee. And if they can't
Okay.
afford the fee, then we typically just tell them the advice about what to do, the best course of action with the minimal fees.
Okay. Right. Right.
So it's very
So would
much
you
a
help?
big, yeah.
Would you help an individual as well, or does it have to be like a person with a portfolio of buy to lets or commercial
So
properties?
we help everybody, and we also so there's two different types. We get people that have got property portfolios,
Mm,
but we also help people that are individual homeowners that have
yes.
got arrears on them. They don't
Yes.
know how to get out of it, but they've
Mm,
got a repossession hearing with the bank
yes.
at the courts. So
Yeah.
we specialize in also helping that landlord prep for that. So we charge a like a fixed fee of 2,500
Right.
for typically 8 hours worth of work,
Right.
and
Okay.
they so I know a lot of homeowners have gone out and they've been charged house, but they still haven't been able to save their property. We
Mm-hmm.
ours is a fixed fee type thing.
Yes.
So 2,500 sometimes we just go and do an appraisal.
Yeah.
Then we charge 2,500 for attending the court. But as a package, typically it's going to be around £5,000. And I
Right.
suppose we've upped our fees over the years because um, if you've got £1 million property, paying us £5,000 is quite normal.
It's nothing. Yeah. It's a big help.
Compared
If you. Yeah.
sometimes if it's more complicated, it can be higher.
Mm,
But you know, all depends on the set of circumstances. But like
mm,
a holistic service around this, right? The business
mm-hmm.
and the person.
Yeah.
So if you think break it down into simple pillars, we can help with the buying and selling. We can write up negative equity. We can help raise the finance, bridging, development finance. Sometimes we've got joint venture type companies,
Right.
and you know, with the litigation side, we can also stop repossession in 24 hours anywhere in the country for a homeowner.
Mm,
But with the
wow.
receivers, we can, help them to get out of problems that they wouldn't understand because it's highly very complex.
Technical.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
quite technical. And if you don't
Yeah.
really understand the technicalities, you might end up on your own creating a bigger problem.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, one of the reasons that we're really good at do is that I used to have 100. I'm actually
Right.
the original client of the company
Mm, mm.
because I actually lost everything, and when I was about to
Wow.
lose everything, this company came. I didn't know them early enough. So
Mm,
I had a multi-million portfolio.
wow.
Had I known about what to do earlier, then my situation would be very different.
Really.
So, so I'm actually the original client of the company, which we started 14 years ago.
Wow.
We
That's
have a lot of
amazing.
the problem that nobody's solving the problem is a gap in the market. And because it's very knowledge intensive,
Yes.
people a lot of people don't want to do the stuff because you've got to have a lot of knowledge. And a lot of
Mm,
people there's a lot of people out there that actually the service. So some companies just buy it for account.
mm.
Some companies
Yes.
just do the legal work and they charge the fee. And some companies just do the finance. We're the only company that does the legal work, the finance, and the sale. So when somebody
Wow.
comes, they're able
So
to,
you're like you offer them full package.
we can offer a full package, and they've got a low cost as well.
Mm,
And so the potential of a solution is a lot higher than if they're
mm,
going to one siloed company that only specializes in one or two of those areas. Yeah.
mm. Wow, that's really very useful actually, because I come across, landlords and portfolios as well with people with portfolio and where they are in difficulty. So, obviously I can always reach out and I can, link you with the people as well. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, furlough starts ending, and stamp duties now sort of coming to an end the day, and the bounce backs come to an end. We start having to start paying them back, and I think with potential inflation as well now, you might find that
Yeah.
the market in property might dip. It could fall by 5%, it could fall by 10%. So as and when that happens, it will require our services.
Yeah.
So we're
Unfortunately, yeah. No.
actually becoming a bit more structured to sort of scale up to help more people.
Right.
You probably start noticing we're going to the quality of material and the people are going to be slightly different. So we're
Okay.
just moving to something a bit more focused on how we're going to set up our social media.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing we're going to be doing, we're also launching a with the prop
I've
tech.
lost you there. Sorry, lost you there.
We're launching a prop tech company to compete against Purple Brick and Right Move.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
So which we've been working on that for 2 years now. That's quite
So
interesting.
that's been in the pipeline for a while, and you're just very close to. Yeah. Oh, that's
Exactly.
amazing. Really
The
exciting.
only, the only last thing I'll say is that we need the main topic keeping. I mean, we've got still half an hour to cover that. Is that we're rescuing properties more like a social enterprise. So we're literally
Mm-hmm.
helping people to create an income for themselves by introducing clients. So that's actually another sort of project close to my heart. It is making money and quite a good is a sort
Yeah.
of theme of the business for like years.
Yeah.
So we've
Yeah.
been
I'm
growing
really
away
fascinated.
from.
Mm. So what got you into it actually? I'm really fascinated now. Did you always wanted to do something like such a specialized thing that you are doing? Did you always want to do it, or just the way things happened and progressed, you just naturally you progressed in this field, or how did it all happen then?
Well, I'm 54 now. I was about 22, 25. Said
Right.
to myself, I'd really love to be working in business for quite a
Right.
senior business. So the other business partner I have got, he and I, he's a very experienced person uh,
Okay.
in and in business. Together we make a very good team.
Right.
He seems to be a bit low key
Mm-hmm.
and more out there on social media.
Yeah, it's not
So,
everyone's cup of tea. That's true.
so
Yeah.
he's got a sort of like Harvey Jones or Jerry Robinson from the NHS industry. So very sort of consultant in terms of helping conceptualize everything.
Yeah.
So I've been able to pick his brain and the level of experience that he's done. I don't know many people at that level. I'm sort of
He's
learning
got that
everything.
specialized knowledge that that's amazing. So
He
that's
took
a
me under
real
his wing.
advantage.
I work with him now, but every day is interesting. It's a bit like being in the army, and
Right.
there's always the next level.
That's
You
right. Yes.
carry 10 kilograms of 10 miles. The next day it's going to be 20 kilograms, uh, 20 miles. It's a bit like that working with him.
Yeah. Oh wow,
Never-
really?
You never really see me looking bored. I've always got a smile on my face or something to look forward to in terms of a challenge or a learning experience.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, I'm really excited, really happy that I came on this show today, because it's not about me giving information. I absolutely love it. I love getting to know as well, the depth of what anybody is doing. So it's really, really fascinating. Yeah, really interesting what you're doing.
What is the topic of service accommodation? So, what happened is for the viewers out there. By the way, we've got quite a few people saying hello. We've got it's not showing up on here, but on a couple of other platforms. We've got John Smith, Hazel Parson. We've got Berhan Noor saying hi. So
Hello to everybody.
Uh, so anyway, so going back to service accommodation. So what we like to know today is tell us a little bit about what service accommodation is for some people out there who don't know much about it. You're obviously been in the property business. Also, what are the four or five key strategies in terms of being, say, effective in your service accommodation strategy as a business or a property business? So far away, Sapna. The floor is yours.
Yes, so sorry, I only heard first part of your what you were saying. I lost you again. So I'm kind of guessing that you're asking me to give some information as to what service accommodation, how does it work, rent to rent service accommodation. Right, great.
Two things. So number one is what is service accommodation? So people understand the definition because everybody is familiar with our audience with accommodation. The second question is what are the five strategies to make sure you have an effective service accommodation business?
What are the effective strategies they should have in place to make sure they have
Five.
five? Just five,
And
okay.
you can give us
Okay,
10
I'll
if
try and
you
squeeze them. I've got list of 10, but I'll squeeze them in five.
no,
I'll
no,
see.
10.
10. Okay, brilliant, brilliant. Okay, excellent. So yeah, so basically, I mean, I wanted to just share this knowledge or whatever you want to say, that things I've learned, by walking the walk in this rent to rent, strategy. Rent to rent, I mean, first of all, rent to rent is something where you are renting a property from a landlord on a long term basis. So you're taking a lease, or you're renting it for 5 years, 3 years, or even 7 years. It just depends between what arrangement you have between yourself and the landlord. Now, with rent to rent, there are two further variations to it. So, one is rent to rent HMO, and the other one is rent to rent service accommodation. Now, the strategy that I teach mainly is rent to rent HMO, which is like, although we say rent to rent HMO, which is houses in multiple occupations. So you are renting out a HMO property or any large property from a landlord, and then you are setting it up and you are renting it out to professionals, and you're giving them proper tenancy agreements. You're doing all the checks and everything. That's what I teach. But there is another variation to it, which is a rent to rent service accommodation. So what it means is you're taking relatively smaller, mostly those type of properties are smaller. So they are apartments, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom apartments, or smaller properties, houses as well. And then you're setting them up as like a holiday let. That's what service accommodation is. But they have their own kitchen, they have their own, so these properties, so people who will come and stay, they'll cook, themselves home. It's a hotel, but in a way, I'm sure people know what service accommodation is. But people who get into this strategy, they don't have to buy a property, they are actually taking it from someone, and they are doing it up, or if a property is already in really tip top condition, that's even better. But normally people tend to do it up to take it to next level, because service accommodation model is very much based on public review. As you can imagine, when people stay in hotels and Airbnb, they always like to leave review. And whatever nightly rate you're charging for your service accommodation, it depends on the type of reviews, because people always like to read the reviews. And that's what I wanted to today, give some information about. So that's service accommodation, rent to rent service accommodation model is. Now, what's happening with this, because we suffered a lot last year, because there was this COVID and lockdown. So people who had properties for service accommodation, they had taken it on a rent to rent basis to run as service accommodation. But because there was a lockdown period, the problem was, all these holiday makers or contractors who stayed in those properties, they stopped traveling, and people's business really suffered. There was no, I mean, people weren't traveling, so they had to really somehow find someone, or so people made big losses in that business. Or, I mean, they even if they rented to, I mean, to key workers, because everybody knows during that long lockdown period, key workers were working throughout that lockdown period. So they gave their properties to them, so but they had to reduce nightly rate, or they had to give them on a long term tenancy, and people made massive loss. Now what's happening, my concern was, I mean, that's why I am a bit hesitant myself, because I made a loss in that business as well, because of this COVID. We made a loss in that particular business model. So I just wanted to warn people that, before you get into it, make sure that you are doing your checks, you are doing all the, whatever you need to check. I mean, obviously it's a great strategy, but you really need to be mindful as to, you really need to know what you're looking for.
Can I ask a quick question? What are the, let's say, the basic things that you're checking that would help them minimize their risk?
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I would like people to know, because what's happening, people are just taking properties to run this service accommodation without even doing these checks. So I have kind of made like a list of 10 things that I think people should really be checking, because people, I still come across people and they're making losses. Yeah, 10 things. Yeah. So first thing is that they need to check if property, if it's an apartment, and if it is a leasehold property, they need to check that whether freeholder is giving them permission to run it as a shortlet or as a service accommodation. Very, very important aspect, which many people who start this service accommodation business, they don't really understand that they need to have that permission, because if freeholder somehow finds out that you're running this shortlet business in the block, he can stop you, and then you've invested in this business and you'll end up losing it, because landlord will be forced to ask you to leave. That's number one. Yeah.
So basically, I'll go through each one because we've got about another 25 minutes here. So I think having a very good understanding the management contracts that you're taking, and understanding the strength of the contracts are probably quite critical to your success. And I suppose the fourth one is probably, because if you miss one line, difference between the failure of your business and the success of your business. Is that right?
Definitely, 100%. Yeah, they have to have very good understanding of the contract. And if they don't understand, and if they've got a mentor who's actually teaching them, make sure that they get guidance from that person. So they're not really missing out on all the important clauses in that, just to cover themselves. So, but number of things that they should.
So I'm just going to say that about a week ago, just out of it's probably interesting for you as well. I had a company interview in this boardroom. So you can see the boardroom here at the moment.
Yes, I can say yes.
Nice. So in the boardroom, we had them here. And they basically run a 22-room service accommodation where you've been business in that's about 10-minute walk from here.
Right.
Piccadilly Circus. It's a massive one. And it's owned by a very rich, can't say where it is, a very rich Russian. So they decided to have designers and these sort of things. And we had this exact conversation about how do you optimize and what should be in the contract, type of what type of things you can include is probably another critical one. But I don't want to just thought it's quite interesting because I come across so many different the property business every day. I meet the top end and the lower end type of people managing these type of stuff as well. But anyway, I thought it'd be quite interesting to say that they were talking about some of the small print in the and that they had this family had put in some of the best clauses to make sure that they could do certain things to the building.
Yes.
I didn't realize you could even do it. Interesting, actually. But I'll let you continue.
Yeah, yeah, no, this is very true. And these are the things, people need to read through properly, check the contract, they hope there are no restrictions, if in case people need to bring their own furniture, or when they're doing, I mean, those type of things, or they need to change the deco and all that, there are no restrictions in that, in the contract. And, if they need to have a break clause in the contract, they need to make sure that that's in place as well. Very, very important as well, because once you're tied in that 5 year contract or 7 year contract, just in case your circumstances change, then obviously you need that cushion as well to protect yourself. So yeah, that's another thing. So you really need to have a solid understanding of the contract. And other thing is, what I'm finding, people are taking, deals are coming from agents or sourcers. And if a sourcer, I mean, I'm sure sourcers are the people who are, people who are listening, they will know sourcers are the people who are providing these deals, for people who want to start in service accommodation. And whatever numbers they are giving, people need to do their own calculation, they need to do their own due diligence, and they're blindly taking and trusting them, which is another thing. People should not do that. Understand the strategy, do your own calculations, and work it out whether it's going to work for you or not. And more than anything, what people need to understand, that just in case if another lockdown happens, do they have plan B in place? Very, very important. Because, I mean, if just in case, if they need to rent out their property to a key worker, then obviously they can't really charge high nightly rate, so they need to work and the numbers properly to make sure that, just in case if that situation happens again, can they still afford to pay rent to this landlord? So that's another very important thing they need to think about. Um, you know also another thing, that third thing, people don't even realize, they need to think about the competition in the area. Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
I can hear you perfectly.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah. Another thing, people, when they get into this service accommodation, people don't realize that, if you are taking an apartment in a block, they need to really be looking for how many other people are running service accommodation in the same block, because it's all based on the competition as well. The more people they have, that means there is more competition, and people don't tend to check that. In a way, it's good that you know that there is going to be demand, but at the same time, you don't really want to be uh, against so much competition, because if the other providers are providing better service and keeping their rate competitively low, that means you are forced to put your nightly rate down as well, and people don't really think it through. It's very, very
Look,
important.
I'll, I'll make an additional point to that. I mean, I'm not as knowledgeable as you in this sector, but my guess would be that, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that let's just say you found something at 10 rooms and you developed a contract. Before you did it, what you want to do is you probably want to search the locality as
Yes.
if you were a customer who would
Mm,
want to take on accommodation for yourself.
mm.
Speak to the community providers and give them as if you were about to stay there, so you know that roughly this is what the price is, this is what the product, this is the type of occupancy they're getting, so you can make a measured decision. Is that pretty much right?
Yeah, no, that's pretty much right. But what is also, no, that's perfect, spot on. This is part of due diligence people should really be doing. Because I've come across someone and he's made a loss of £7,500 in by just by taking a deal from someone and not entrusting that source at 100%. So it's important that, like you just said, it's very, very important that people do check their competition. They check how much demand. But what's made it even trickier as well, because we had this lockdown for last year, since you can't really look at the previous data as well. You can't check how much demand there has been and how well other people have been doing. So that's another tricky thing. So they need to look deeper to find out the actual demand, and they have to uh, they shouldn't just blindly trust anybody. And another thing, like nightly rate, when they say, oh, this is how much the nightly rate you're going to charge and all that. But people tend to forget that nightly rate changes all the time on a daily basis. If your competitor is reducing nightly rate, you are forced to reduce your nightly rate. Or sometimes you'll find during the week, nightly rate is lower than the weekends. And people don't think those type of things. They don't think of those figures, that it changes your margin, your profit margin as well. So these are very like a minute thing, but they really have big impact on the business. People don't realize, and I just find people are naive. So before they get into something like this, it's very important that they check it properly, have someone who's actually guiding them properly, looking the contract and everything, and have a plan B in place more than anything. Because the way thing happened, we got bitten, definitely. We did like high end property. We changed the whole furniture, back in two bed, apartment. We just wanted to do really high end, but when it was like lockdown, we had to just give it to key workers, and we had to slash our nightly rates and all, made a loss, and then landlord wasn't happy. So these things happen. I mean, I'm only telling people because luckily we had so many other property related businesses where income was there, so we could bail ourselves out. But people who, if they're just starting in SA, it's not quite, they need to be mindful of these things. Very, very important.
That's
Another thing.
really,
Uh-huh.
really useful, actually. I think those three golden nuggets in themselves.
Mm.
I've only got covered three so far. How good the
Oh,
others are.
I thought I've done about five. Right. Okay. Right.
Well,
Okay. I'll just.
well, so I think I'll let you continue because I think there's probably quite a lot. I've probably sunk them down into the main topic.
Yes, yeah.
Continue,
Right,
yeah.
okay.
Be
Yeah.
good.
Another very, very important one is that, people need to check that landlord has got right type of, mortgage in place, because their mortgage may not allow them to run it as like a short let. So they need to have that. And if you know that better more than anybody else, and landlord need to check it, because if mortgage company finds out, they will be in big trouble. So yeah, and people aren't checking these things.
Well, we've got cases where a few clients which have actually taken on, they own the HMO,
Mm,
moved in the HMO,
mm,
and well, we've got quite a few of those clients in the past, and then it becomes a regulated finance.
mm.
Technically, it breaks the contract, so the
Yes,
lender can actually appoint receivers on the property.
that's right. Yes. And it's
Um,
quite a serious thing. Yes, it's a serious breach. Yeah.
it gets quite complicated.
Mm, 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 mm.
Good one, that one.
Yeah, yeah.
True that.
Another one is in, yeah. Another one is insurance. The landlords need to have like a right type of insurance in place as well if they're going to rent it out for short let, and if anything, if any damage happens, or if they need to make a claim, and if they don't have right type of, and they haven't informed their insurance company, they can't really claim anything, so that's another thing. That'll be another breach. So they either need to change their insurance, or they need to make sure that they have right product in place as well, which many people who are starting the just as a don't realize the nitty gritty of this business model. um yeah, so that's another thing. Insurance has to be correct as well, or if they know, they need to inform the landlord to change their, or let at least let the insurance company know, so at least they've done their bit. That's very, very important. um Another thing, people don't tend to realize that ongoing costs are quite high of these essays. It's not, whereas when people are running HMO or multi-let, those type of other properties where you have tenants, you don't really have that much cost up, day-to-day running costs, whereas essays have very high costs, and setup costs are quite high. So although it looks really easy that yes, you're getting that much money every month, you're making that much, but people tend to forget that your outgoings are so much as well, that you, by the time you're recovering your own investment, it's going to take you, quite a while. So that's like a false economy. So you need to make sure that you know what you're doing, so you have a good control on numbers, and you're very limited to, well, you kind of have to control yourself, or don't go overboard, or what you're doing numbers wise as well, because you need to be mindful. Management company in place, cleaning, changeovers, guests moving in, checking out, and all that costs a lot of money. So these type of things, so people need to be aware of these things. Yeah, and repair, maintenance, those type of things as well, which people don't tend to.
How many have you covered now? I just want to make sure you don't miss anything.
I think I have kind of covered everything so far. Yes, nightly rate I've talked about. Yes, I think I have kind of covered everything. Yes. Another thing I would say that know the area really well. Don't blindly trust somebody if they're saying, that this property will do well. You don't just try take their word for it. You need to have a very good understanding and go with your gut instinct more than anything. Okay, it's a business, but you need to have you need to be fully aware, as to what you're doing. So although this essay boom is coming, but just in case if it doesn't come, what do we do? You're committing yourself for 5 years, 7 years. Yeah.
Okay, that's quite comprehensive. Another 5 minutes before we start a bit late because we have a couple of people
Yes.
hitching.
So yeah, we've gone over. Yeah.
Got 5 minutes up now to, I mean, what will be quite interesting for you to know getting started off, these are the 10 key points in terms of making sure you manage your, but if somebody's just starting off with service accommodation, um, what are the top three things they need to do to just do the basics? So, for example, how much money do they need? What areas would they look at? And is there like a service accommodation calculation online that you think is a good one because it's quite a comprehensive checklist? Or should they just come and talk to you and you can handhold them through the process?
Yeah, so basically, I think what people really need more than anything, they need to have right person, and if they're getting trained by somebody, make sure that person is walking, has walked the walk, so they know exactly what they're talking about. That knowledge isn't coming from books, very important. And another thing, money wise, they need to be realistic that there is no such thing as no money down strategy. You have to put some money, so you're talking between 5 to 10K, at least, which is relatively low investment compared to buy to let or any other strategy you're following, or BRR or anything that you're doing. So definitely you need that. And area wise, I would say, obviously you need places where which are like close to city center, and more than anything, I think you need to know the area really well. So I would say go with your local area, because within your local city which areas, which postcode will do well for service accommodation. Because every city has got, all good big cities have got areas, where this type of strategy maybe can work. But they just need to know, and don't just rely blindly on anybody else, to give you all that information. And another key thing is that, because if you're going with the right mentor, they'll tell you what you really need to look for in the contract. Very, very important, like you said. That's very important aspect. And before they sign, they need to make sure they ask for like written permission, that they have got some consent by the freeholder, that he has got no objection running it as a short let. Because they can just stop you anytime, and I've seen that happening over and over again in Newcastle, not for my own essay, but other people. And it's a shame when people have invested so much money and they're losing money like that. So it's
Yes.
it's it's a risky strategy. It's not quite, if you don't know what you're doing, then it's better to
Okay, I
invest
think
time and money into that.
it's all
Important.
about knowledge, experience. If you've had a few battles, you're more likely to win the war.
That's
Okay,
right.
so I'm going to ask you a slightly different question now. Do you think obviously the last thing is quite a kind of weird type of danger in some ways. This pandemic thing's been going on for more than a year and a half now. I think it's like a year and a half. March, April, May, June. It's coming
That's
up to
right.
a year and a half. So, what do you think is going to be the potential impact of the continuance of some of these variants like Delta? Because obviously, if you've had an issue where you've had just the main strain been that impactful, the government, I think, is being a little bit complacent by saying, you don't necessarily need masks all the time now. I think if they're a bit more stringent about it, at least people will be a bit more on their guard. protect themselves from a new variant. Do you have any particular thoughts about which way you think things are going to go with
Yeah,
Mike?
no, I totally agree that it's very concerning that all of a sudden, government is, they are just they are okay for people not to wear mask, and they're not really strict about it. And all of a sudden, it's like yesterday we saw this, and all of a sudden the numbers shot up, and because they're saying the new variant that's coming, that's a lot more contagious as well. So it is, people need to be cautious. Exactly. So yeah, it's very unsettling for everybody. We can't really 100% say that we are out of these difficult times. Yeah, definitely. I think we still need to be
Okay, well,
cautious.
we've come to an end with the program for today, and really appreciate the time for Sapna,
Thank you.
who's
Thank you for your time.
taken time out to uh, give us her knowledge and experience in the service accommodation industry. So thank you again, Sapna.
Thank you, and thank you for all the knowledge that I got from you as well. Thank you for inviting me. Really enjoyed it.
Okay, well, take care. We'll catch up
Take
very
care.
soon.
Bye
Thank you
bye.
again. We'll have to bring you on again about another topic. Catch up
Yes,
soon.
definitely. Take care then. Bye bye.
Okay.